what some may know, some may not, but the fact is there were a Sumerian people in existence before these Anunnaki arrived. Fair enough?
Okay.
The Anunnaki are the ones who now these are terms that were given to these individuals that showed up. Anunnaki means they came from the sea, or as their legend goes, they came from a submerged culture, something that fell underwater. And they were also referred to as fish people.
Hmm.
Okay, so did they swim here? Did they come on boats? Whatever the case, they're shining ones. Okay, there's just, how do you describe a people that show up practically from nowhere? You've got no idea where they came from, and the place that they did come from no longer exists. They can't go back to it. Nobody can. It was part of a recent deluge, if you will. Okay. And apparently, these Anunnaki fish people, shining ones, had survived a previous um, deluge. Okay. Now, this is the story that the Sumerians are passing forward. So these Anunnaki, which shining ones, fish people, whatever, right? Unknown people that came from the sea,
Right.
show up, and then they've got all this knowledge.
Hmm.
And then Sumer, Sumeria, all of a sudden, just out of inexplicably becomes the greatest society in that part of the world.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
They've got a written language, which is what, cuneiform,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So they can write. They've got these incredible star maps, and they begin to show these people how to plant, harvest, irrigate, whatever, build cities.
Hmm.
Apparently, there's some ziggurats involved, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this just all of a sudden, just like bam, 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 bam. This is exponentially just growing.
Yes.
Okay, now what was the population? Who absolutely knows for a fact? Who knows? I mean, how many Sumerians were there? How many Anunnaki showed up?
Yeah, do they have that information I mean, did they keep track of the populations at all? Because
If
they were very good at accounting type things.
that might have been the case later on, but these are the origin stories.
Okay.
Okay, nobody's, well, there were 30,000 of us laying around, and all of a sudden these 27 Anunnaki showed up. It doesn't go quite like that.
Right.
But these shining ones, this is, I'm starting to get um piecing the language together.
Okay.
Sumer, which is Sumeria, right?
Yes.
Sumer comes from the word Shumer.
Okay.
Shumer means the land of the watchers.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to put together.
Hmm.
Shinar is the place of the watchers.
Ah. Okay.
You see how the language is starting to come together?
Yeah.
So these apparently, okay, well, the Sumerian word for God was El. Okay.
Okay.
You're familiar with this, I'm
Hmm.
sure.
Yeah.
Elohim is the feminine plural of El. El means brightness or shining.
Well, what's interesting is Kabbalistically, Elohim, when we take a look at I'll be that I'll be, Ehya, Hashem, um, which is Chesed, and then we take a look at Elohim. Elohim means forces, literally forces, but they're feminine forces. But if you take a good look at it, this is the way it works. I'll be that I'll be is the thought of creation, the will. Hashem is the designer of creation. Elohim is the fabricator of creation. In other words, giving birth,
Gave birth.
right? Gave
The
birth to
feminine.
creation, right? So I'm just mentioning that to you. So there is definitely a very close, it's synchronized in thought. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, L, just so you understand, L is the idea of, remember, like Yisrael, uh, which means direct to. L, or being forthright, honest, like Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. Direct, honest, forthright, upfront with L. So what happens is L is the giver of the light, giver of the water, which could be Torah, um, where water is the physical manifestation of spiritual light, is the way it's viewed. So it fits. It fits.
Mm-hmm. Well, the point that I'm headed towards, according to the language structure that's available, is that uh these shining ones,
Hmm.
uh whether that be the sun or we say stars, but we know that stars are actually suns. Our
Yes.
sun is a star, one of many stars.
And is considered a planet, just like the moon.
So
Yeah.
these shining ones are accredited with, well, no, they've demonstrated that they have knowledge and wisdom and capabilities of irrigation, planting, harvesting, so on and so forth, right?
Hmm.
How to construct cities. So they would be tended to be looked upon not necessarily as gods, but representatives of.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Where did you get all this knowledge? You look up, from God, from heaven, from El, however.
Hmm.
So you are the sons of the shining one, sons of light. You see how the language,
Hmm. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
it's just an expression, a terminology, what cultural expression, if you will.
Yes.
So you can interpret God. I mean, if say God, and in a room of 12 people, you're liable to get 12 different answers.
Yes.
Okay. And none of them are liable to match what you're thinking.
Yes.
So the shining ones, the fish people, the illuminated ones, the ones with great wisdom, of course you're going to listen to what they say. You're going to
Sure.
follow their,
Of course, they know what they're doing. They know how to do it. We
right.
have a need for it. Of course, that's who we're going to
And
go to.
it benefits society.
Exactly.
Now, the choice becomes they can maintain that knowledge amongst the survivors of this destroyed culture, and they can begin a life new here in Samaria, the place of the shining ones, and they can be masters, if you will, over the local population endlessly, forever, as long as they keep the knowledge within the family.
Yes.
Agreed?
Yeah. Yeah, because they want to keep their control or their power.
That's an
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
But they have come in, they have benefited society and a culture and everyone as a whole. So, do we want to make ourselves kings, rulers, whatever, over this particular society endlessly, forever and ever? Right? Do we want to do that? Do we want to teach these people the knowledge, let them have it for themselves, and we will just simply move on? But what would be the purpose of moving on once you've,
Hmm.
generated such success? So I happen to think that um, there was a considerable number of these Anunnaki, if you will, because at some point in the story there was a split. There's this story about Enlil or whatever, and he cut heaven and earth in two and divided it up, and you get this part and we get that part, right?
Hmm.
300 supposedly go up to heaven, the upper atmosphere, and become watchers. And the 300 that are left here on the ground, I don't know, maintenance, whatever. It's hard to say. Um, I think the watchers essentially were questionable ethics. Okay, because here's where the story starts to take a turn, and it's saying that the watchers were seeing what was going on down here, and apparently there was this sons of man, Adama, Adam in the Bible, Adama in Sumerian. Something changed, and when these Adama began to reproduce, I don't know, there's a various number of explanations as to how this was going on, but these watchers are saying, doggone it, these women are fantastic looking. Okay. 200 out of the 300 supposedly said, man, I ain't holding back. I'm going down there and getting me some of that. And
That's why they were named. Whoa, man.
yeah, but that was apparently a forbidden thing to do. There, it had already been a situation where they had taken an oath. We're not going to interfere. We're just going to simply sit up here and watch. We might send a little messenger down once in a while for whatever, but we're not going to interfere. And then 200 of them said, to heck with that oath, man. I'm done. Right.
Mm.
And that is where the sons of whomever had relations with the son of man. So apparently there was some genetic similarities, biologically genetic similarities between these beings in order so that they were able to come down and do what they did. Now, the first generation, I don't think You hear you've got a 5'6" woman and maybe I don't know, 6'4" watcher. I don't know. I don't know how big they were. They had to have been somewhat reasonably close in size. And then, okay, first generation, now we've got 8 or 10 feet tall, right? And then it gets to the situation where these people are just multiplying like rabbits because you got 200 of these guys running around just taking their pick from women and impregnating at will, and they begin to multiply like rabbits. Well, generation number two, or first generation, begins to marry. There's enough of them around that they can do that. And then the grandchildren, the next generation, are the ones that start into the 18 and 20 foot tall areas. Okay. If we're to believe the size of some of these individuals. And there are pictures, hieroglyphs in English that show a man walking next to a fully grown giraffe, and he's damn near as tall as the giraffe. And
Yeah,
they get it.
and they're also around other human beings, only up to the knee type thing or up to the
Yep.
waist. Yeah, see a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've taken a view when I read the Torah about Noah's flood, about the leading up to it,
Mm-hmm.
is I realized, yeah, I mean, it definitely is a spiritual book. There is no doubt about it. But it does say sons of Elohim,
Mm-hmm.
sons of, well,
El, the
technically,
shining,
well, it says sons of Elohim or sons of God, sons of gods is what they
the,
say.
the shining
Um,
ones, the powerful ones.
yeah. So, I often took the approach when I read that as saying, well, they were talking to a people who were aware of these stories, aware of this history. So obviously writing this information in there, um, they didn't think the way we thought. They didn't have doubts. They knew, oh yeah, my great grandfather told me about this and told me about that, and his father told him blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So there was definitely the traditional handing down of these particular stories and so on
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. So when I read that, I don't necessarily read it as being sons of God, but rather sons of great people, because El means, when you really get down to El or Elohim, really means force from above or strength from above. So the idea is a coming down in that word, in that
And
Hebrew
in the
word.
plural, it would be powerful ones,
Right,
or yeah,
right.
ones, individuals, a group.
So, right. So if you yeah, you take it as a spiritual perspective, but then if you say, well, what about from a physical manifestation point of view? Yeah, sons of Elohim. All those that came down wasn't just a singular one, it was many of them that came down. And I can view it that way and go, well, the Sumerian stories and so on and so forth, and some of these Babylonian stories and Chichen Itza, I'm sorry, the Aztecs, the Mayan stories, and so many others. I'm like, well, if I just change my thinking slightly, I can see it. I can see it definitely being a realm of possibility.
Yeah, well, the fallen angels,
Yeah.
uh, you know. Um, anyway, a lot of what was recorded has been lost, destroyed, or whatever, but that which does survive has some very
I
interesting.
I I don't know if that information's really missing. I think I think a lot of that information is out there. I think what it is the interpretive process has made us dumb to a lot of the information that's still out there.
Sure, I mean, I have always heard Anunnaki, shining ones, fish
Yeah,
people across the sea,
sure, I have to.
but then I stopped for just a half second and said, wait a minute. these Anunnaki came upon
Yeah.
Samaria.
Yeah.
Well, if these Anunnaki are the ones who said are supposedly the fish people or the shining ones or whatever terminology they're using to describe it, it had to have been the Atlanteans. If we're going to say that Atlantis sunk and it sunk in a deluge at the end of the ice age, and we look at the approximate date of when this culture springs up, oh, two and two starts to fit.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. We also have a situation where these the after the flood, the men went to Shinar,
Shinar, the place of the
Shinar,
shining ones.
places shine. And I also wonder why did they go there? Not really what the word actually means. So they went to the Shining Ones, and the Shining Ones help to
Rebuild
produce
society.
and produce this thing, this arrow, this whatever that goes into heaven, this tower.
Right.
You got to
Okay.
say, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. And then you throw what you just said, like, holy craps, this was technology.
Mm-hmm. But it all depends on how you read this Tower of Babel story again, too.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can find, or they have found, any number of ziggurats
Yes.
up in this vicinity.
Yes.
How do you know how big they are?
They're pretty large,
Okay,
but
generally about 7 levels high.
oh, you mean level wise? Okay, yeah. 7 levels. Okay. I thought you meant like perimeter. And
No, no,
okay,
7 levels,
seven
like
levels.
7 chakras. And if you're going to pass this knowledge along, then you find your candidate
Hmm.
and then you educate this individual to learn how to get into this meditative state, right?
Yes.
And this is your first level, your second level,
Hmm.
and then you progress up to the seventh level, the highest chakra, and you fully learned how to meditate, and you're
Yep.
getting this information.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, this is really all starting to make sense because they speak of a dream time or a dream state.
Mm.
How would you refer to meditating? He looks like he's sleeping, but he's sitting there,
Right. Eyes closed.
right?
Breathing is very slight,
And
very
relax,
calm, relaxed. Yeah, you're sleeping. Yeah.
meditate.
Meditation. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm starting to understand
Yeah.
what they were referring to as
Ross.
being enlightened in a dream state,
Yep.
receiving information. This is not so mysterious anymore.
I want to let me know when you're done because I have something to tell you that I
I'll
don't want
stop right
recorded.
there. I'll
Oh,
stop.
okay. All right. I'm going to stop the recording now.